I don't know where Rupert is, so Denny and I are just going to do an Ask an Entrepreneur. Denny, come up and talk to us about what you did, your presentation on, what has happened since then, and then we will go into questions.
All right. Well, we actually did a presentation on 3D technology. I don't want to go into too much because it's sort of on hold. Don't want to get into it. It's a long story. But anyhow, we've got some other things that we're working on also. One is, I don't know if you can see this in my sock, but there's a light on there because I'm wearing a loop. We've got a company called Vascular Technology. We will put a program on for you here very soon about that. It's stuff that was invented. Vascular therapy is the name of the company, and it's based on stuff that was invented by NASA years ago. When the astronauts first going to outer space, they were dying. They were coming back. They were losing bone density. They were irritable. They couldn't sleep. They were aging rapidly. They couldn't figure out what was wrong, and they were afraid that they didn't want to tell the American public because they figured they would shut down the entire space program. It's always been believed that in the United States, or to live in our world, you need 4 things. You need food, air, water, and rest. That's all you needed. Well, there's more than just that. At the same time, they were doing a lot of different experiments, and suddenly everybody realized we live in a giant metal core wall. You're subjected to low levels of magnetism every day of your life. You don't realize it. You don't feel it. There's no magnetism in outer space, and that was the problem. So if we go anywhere in outer space, they either have to magnetize the astronauts or keep them magnetized the entire day. So that's the problem going to Mars. Now they can create, spacesuits and stuff that have the coils, but can they keep them going for that long? They have to wait to regenerate the batteries. I'm sure they've figured this out. They're really talking about a magnetic rocket. That's a little known fact that we don't know that much about. When you think about it, when you're walking along the beach and it's a nice sunny day and all that, and you feel really good. Boy, it must be the air and the water. No, it's because you're feeling the full effect of the magnetism because you're away from power lines and rubber tires and all the other things that interfere with it. So I don't want to get too much further into that. That will be programmed for later for us. Another thing that we're working on right now, we've started the Super Show. And one thing I want to make you aware of, a lot of the people that have been part of 1 Million Cups, for instance, we've got in Brazil, we've got a meeting with us today. Trevor Gibbs. Trevor actually lives in Brazil, and he's part of our team, and I met him through 1 Million Cups. The show is actually going to run by Yale Schwartz, who we also met at 1 Million Cups. There's a lot of contacts here, so you can get a lot of good businesses going just dealing with the people that you meet with the organization itself. And what we're going to do is we're going to do the biggest collector show ever in the convention center. We're planning it for the week before Labor Day, not this year, but next year. We want a lot of time to put it all together. I've done over 1,000 shows in my life all around the world, a lot of different countries in that. I've actually put on shows too. I've done shows in the convention center, for instance. And so what we want to do is we want to do the biggest collector show ever. We're going to take halls A and B. That's about 700,000 square feet. And we've got options on the rest of the west side, which is over 1 million square feet. We're going to be able to use the 1 million square feet. We're not sure, but we're going to try to. What we're going to do is we're going to have a segment on coins. We're going to have a segment on sports cars. We're going to have a segment on comic books. And we're going to have a segment on toys. And we're going to have auctions for all 4 also. There are a lot of ways to make money when you do shows. One is obviously you sell the board space, so we're going to try to get as many dealers as we possibly can. You're going to also make money from the auctions because they're going to give you a percentage of whatever they bring in. The ability for them to sell as far as an auction is concerned is based upon the number of people you can get. So one of our members is Chuck Freihofer. We're also going to get in here to make a presentation. He's probably if not the best, one of the better data miners throughout the United States. In other words, he can go through your block and tell you who collects what and so on and so forth. That's pretty amazing. And that's a great skill to have, so he's part of our group who. So we think we're going to have, over the 4 days of the show, 75,000 people coming in. We're going to be very proactive with it too. We're doing stuff like, you're going to charge admission to come in the show. We're going to give 2/3 of that admission back to the people to spend specifically with the dealers on the floor. So if we charge, let's say for instance, $60 to get in, $40 is going to go to spend at the dealers on the floor. So if we get our 75,000 people, that's $3 million that's going to be spent on the floor. This is not lost amongst the people that are going to be there. Now they obviously know they're not going to spend $3 million with me. It's going to be all over the place. But the point is they've got a shot at it. And they know that it has to be spent, and that's good. So that gets it a little bit easier for the people to come in as dealers. We're also thinking, we know we're not going to have any problems getting comic book dealers. We don't think we're going to have any problem getting toy dealers. We think we can do a decent job with sports car dealers. We're only worried about the coin dealers. And the only reason why I worry about it, I was a coin dealer for many, many years. I was an expert in gold coins. Matter of fact, the Second World Catalog of Gold Coins has an acknowledgments page of about 127 dealers. This is people like Spinks and Sotheby's and dealers all over the world. And the page prior was consulting specialist. It was me. I really knew my stuff. Well, anyhow, that's been 30 years since I've been directly involved in coins, so I don't know. I've got a lot of old friends, but they're older friends involved in the business. So there's a group out there called FUN. That's the Florida United Numismatists. They do a show every January, which is the second biggest coin show in the world. And it's considered the bellwether for all the future year for coins themselves. And what they do is they bring in all sorts of dealers around the world. They have a great show. It's a big show. It's huge. And they make a tremendous amount of money from it. And then about 10 years ago, they started doing a summer show. Well, we've targeted the Summer Fun Show, and we want to buy it. And from that standpoint, what we're going to offer them is, look, we'll go ahead and give you a quarter of our business, and then you still run the coin show the way you've been doing it, but it'll be the fun show as part of the super show. Our goal is to, when people think of the super show, they'll say, oh, that's the show that they have every year in Orlando. Just like you think of the Super Bowl, everybody knows what that is. So that's what we're going for, and we think we can get there pretty easily. Now, what are the problems that we have? Same problem as everybody has in business: money. How do you raise money to put all this on? Because we've got to pay a deposit on the convention center itself, and it's going to cost us about $600,000 to rent what we want to rent. We have to put down 25% as deposit. Well, that's a lot of money. So we think we want to get a title sponsor, and we also want to get somebody that's going to invest a little bit of money. Probably what we're going to give them is an option of, when the whole thing's over, that, if you give us $300,000, we'll give you 10% of the business itself, or we'll pay you back $450,000 from the money that we're going to make. Pretty good deal for somebody like that. And we've targeted, we haven't talked to them yet, but we've targeted the group over in Sarasota. That's NGC, CGC, and CGS. Now let me explain it. NGC is the second biggest coin grading company in the world. Grading anything out there costs a lot of money. Example, PSA recently sold, and they graded 30 million cards last year. I can't imagine the amount of money they made. The minimum, they were getting 20 bucks a card, more than that. So you'd see it's a lot of money that's involved in this particular business. They also own CGC, which is the biggest player in the comic book grading industry by far. Nobody's even remotely close. And recently they started CGS, where they're going to grade cards too, which they've done. But let's say NGC was, I told you coins, right? Yeah, I didn't want to tell you wrong. And they've also just started CGS, where they're going to grade cards. And because of their success in the other two, we know they're going to be successful. So that's really the four disciplines. I don't know if anybody grades toys. We haven't found that out yet. But we don't worry about that. One of our partners is Josh Diggins, who owns the Acme Superstore in the Longwood. I don't know if you've seen it. It's the third biggest comic book store in the world. They have over 1 million comic books, over 1 million toys. So he's got tremendous contacts. He's actually been in comic books, if you can imagine that. We know all the comic book artists, so we're going to bring a lot of them to the show also. So let's go back to the money thing. Well, how do you raise money? Well, we're very good friends with Augusto Guevara, who's going to make a presentation here in a couple of weeks. He's the regional manager for Fundopolis. Fundopolis started out as strictly a crowdfunding firm, raising $1,070,000, I think was the government limit. It's since been raised to $5 million, and they've also got their license now, so they can do almost any investment product that you can do now. And when you talk to them, they find out they're going to ask you a number of questions. What do you want to do? How do you want to do it? A lot of it is dependent upon if you had any success with what you're doing, if you sold anything yet. Now, we haven't really sold anything yet. We've got all the things in place. As soon as we get our sponsorship, we're ready to run off and run. Let's say we don't get the sponsorship. Then we'll go to Augusto, and we'll have to obviously sell some stuff in order to hit. And that's pretty easy. We can pre-sell tickets to the show and stuff like that, and we can start lining up dealers also. Now, the only problem if we go to Augusto, it might take as much as 6 months to raise the money. We may have to delay the show another year. Don't want to do that. So that's why we're going to go the route of the sponsorship first. The reason why the sponsorship is important, if we get that group that's in Sarasota, they're already dealing in 3 of our 4 disciplines. So this is going to be tremendous. Well, look who just walked indoors, Rupert. Yeah, come and join us. You're going to be talking up here in a few seconds. And anyhow, so that's what our problems are and what we're going to do. Just so you know how Fundopolis works, what they generally do, and I don't want to steal too much of his thunder, they're going to ask you, obviously, what's your business idea, what do you want to do? Who's experienced in this? Who knows how to do this? And they're going to judge whether they think you can do this or not. Who have you put together as a team? You need to have a team. It can't be a one-person operation. And really, be successful in this type of industry, so you have to put together, and we think we put together a pretty good team. We've got people for obviously running the show itself. We've got the best data miner out there, we think. We've got guys, Louis Morales is a former New York police detective who runs card shows in town now, and he's retired, he's working for the FBI and a few other things. He's our director of security, and then we'll hire one of the better security firms out there for the show, because the coin dealers, more than anybody else, really need the security, so we think we've taken care of that angle. We know that we can make a lot of money through hotel rooms, and we've got a system set up that's ready to go, whereby they'll book the hotel room actually through us, and they'll get $10 a night for every room night that's booked, and we'll set up deals with basically, and Visit Orlando will help us with this, with all the different hotels that are out there, the hotel chains, because we want to bring in obviously a tremendous number of people from out of town to do this. And then we've got other things that we're working on. For instance, we're not going to print out any materials that are going to be given to the people. It's all going to be by QR codes. So you can go in your QR code and you can find out where every dealer is there, what they carry, and it's up to the dealer. They can put their entire inventory if they want to. We don't really care. What they put in, the point is, if I'm an attendee and I come to the show and I know I've got a certain amount of money to spend just on what I came in the show, plus I wouldn't be there if I wasn't ready to spend money anyhow. And I look up, this is what I want to buy or what I'm looking for, I'm going to be able to find through the QR codes where they are. That's going to save us a tremendous amount of money. The other thing that we're doing is that we don't like the way that they park cars at the convention center. It's an old outmoded system. It makes no sense. I'll give you an example. We tried to go the last day of Meghnot this year. I don't want to get into how I lost my tables there, but screw up on their part. But hey, I'm supposed to have 6 and got none. But anyhow, we were going to go the last day just to talk to the dealers. We got there at 9:30. The show opens at 10. And we drove all around and we figured out we're not even going to get in to the building till noon. This is craziness. So you got all these dealers that have spent all this money to be here. We're all their customers. They're out in the parking lot trying to get in. That's horrible. And so we've talked to the convention center about it. We talked to the parking people and they're resistant. But we're basically going to take the attitude, change the parking. And I think we can explain to them and they can see what we want. Basically, just let them come in and park, have them pay on the way out. Let them get in the convention center so they can do business with everybody. Wait, it's not going to cost you any more people than you've got now. Wait, you need to think out of the box. See a problem, come up, wait for the people. Get something to do.
So what's your estimate? I know it's very early in the game.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your estimated gross out of the thing and what's your estimated profit on the thing?
We think we're going to make a profit around $8 million. And there's a lot of things involved in this. We talked about, obviously, the auctions, the attendance itself, the hotel rooms. We can make money on, we can get somebody to put up a card issue for us, we can somebody get a comic book issue for us, and we can somebody get a coin issue for us. We know the companies that can do that, and you all can make money from that. So we're going to do all of those.
What's your risk?
The risk is you don't get such. You can lose money if obviously nobody comes because you've spent a lot of money on a lot of different things. We consider it to be really, really low. The worst case scenario, if we get no dealers. You're doing the biggest show in the world. I can't imagine, and we know most of these people anyhow, that we're not going to get dealers to do it. Most of them are going to want to do it. A lot of people are really upset with the people that like run Meghnot. So I don't think it's going to be any problem to get the comic book dealers there. We know we can get the toy dealers because Josh knows most of them. It's going to be pretty easy. Now, if we can get Disney to come, that'd be absolutely fabulous. Can we do that? We don't know. That's one of our targets. We've got people that know the big people at Disney very, very well. We know that Disney does a toy show every other year out in Anaheim about the same time, but they don't do anything in Orlando. So why not? We're going to go after them and see what we can do.
Might even be another amusement park in town besides Disney.
Yeah, that's true too, but what do they want to do as far as this is concerned? We're looking more at the amusement parks as we can do some sort of deals with Visit Orlando. What can you give us that we can offer to the attendees?
I think Universal's got plenty of merch, but I don't know if they do a show.
Well, I don't know, but you're right. They've got merchandise too. So yeah, we've got other
And
places
Fun
we can
Spot.
fit. I'm sorry, what?
And Fun Spot.
There you go.
Yeah, Fun Spot.
I love, and that, if you got
No,
time,
really, if you're gonna do toys, and we've also talked to Rupert, Rupert's in the gaming industry, if we can put together something, we don't know if this is gonna work, but we've talked about it, whereby we can have a gaming module there where people come in and do that too. So, we're flexible in what we want to do, but everything's going to be arranged by getting people there and making sure everybody has a good time. One thing we know that's going to be really big, especially for the coin and the car dealers, they've never seen cosplay.
What?
Cosplay. And you see all of these people that come dressed up to the show because of the comic books and that. Oh, by the way, we're going to have autograph signers, both for the typical comic book thing where you get all the people involved in comic books and that, the artists and people that are portraying that. And then also we'll have big sports stars there also. So you make money from all that too, which is pre-sell the tickets.
Car auction is going to be dealers, or it's going to be individuals auctioning off their cars like Amicum, Barrett Jackson?
Not cars, cards.
Cards, so not
Sports
automobiles.
Not on
Sports
automobiles,
cars.
sports cars.
I was thinking cars.
No,
Those
sports
cars
cars.
too.
But that gives us an idea for the future.
Yes.
I've got a friend that he claims he's got over 4 million sports cars. He's thinking about, he wanted me to help solve it, it's like where you begin.
It's a good start.
Right there.
Right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can help with that. Anybody have any particular questions about?
What's an
what we're trying to do?
advertising budget for something like that?
Well, the best part about it is we can advertise everything online. We've got, I should have mentioned that we have the top marketing guy, and this is not our saying, this is what the Orlando Business Journal says for the last 3 years in Orlando. It's part of our group too. So we're going to market as much as we can through all of the different channels out there that are free, like the internet and so on and so forth. He knows how to do this. He's both a YouTube expert and also a Google expert. So we're going to market as much as we possibly can for free. We really haven't set a marketing budget yet because we're not sure how much we're going to have to do. We know we're going to have to obviously reach out through the major publications to advertise the show itself, but a lot will be word of mouth and one-on-one.
Yeah, because that network spreads quick.
Yeah.
I would imagine in the car dealerships, the coins, all those people talk to each other. So.
Well, they're always looking for more things to do and better stuff to do, and it's the other reason why we chose the week that we did. Most people say you can't do stuff late summer because kids are back in school. Well, not necessarily. Up north, they don't go back to school until the Wednesday after Labor Day. The point is that the show's going to be Thursday through Sunday. Move-in is going to be Tuesday and Wednesday of that week, and then we're going to have Monday and Tuesday afterwards to move out because we figure we want people to stay to the end of the show on Sunday. Monday's holiday. It's Labor Day. They can go home on Monday. Stay to the end of the show on Sunday, because the problem with bigger shows is people leave early. We're not going to allow that.
Right.
You leave early and you're going to lose your privileges in the future. And if they've got another day that they can move out, or two actually, that solves that entire problem too. And that's all part of the cost that we're paying for the conventions.
It helps the hotel people because they'll stay for to go to the parks and
That's
hang out in
exactly
Orlando.
right. Yeah. So we got a lot of advantages of being in Orlando also.
I just love the fact that you're putting that the part of the admission means you're spending money there.
Yeah.
That's just, I've been on enough shows to think, man, all the vendors are gonna love it, and people are gonna, I think it's perfect.
That's exactly right. And we're thinking out of the box. For instance, if you go to Meghnot, you pay $60 a day to get in. Now they've got deals where you get an entire package, you get a VIP package. We'll do stuff like that too. But the point is, they're not giving any money back to anybody for anything. And we're giving it to spend on the floor itself. Doesn't matter to us, because we're gonna make a lot of money regardless, but that's just extra for both us and better for the dealers. And like I said, this is not lost upon them. The dealers see that and they understand that. That's what they want.
What's a good? I mean, how many times you go to someplace and you walk around, nobody's buying it, like an art festival down at
Yeah.
the park, right?
Right.
People are spending their day, but they're not buying anything. They're
That's
not
right, they're
excited
there to
about
watch.
anything. They're just
Yeah.
wasting time. This kind of gets you in there, gets you excited because you're probably going to walk out with something and remember that experience.
Well, generally, people come to these shows because they want to spend money. They're looking for something they know that bigger dealers are going to be. They don't normally get a chance to see, and they're going to do that. And so, that's not a problem. The coin dealers are going to show up with multi-million-dollar inventories. That's just a given. That's just what the way to do. You'll find a lot of the car dealers will also have that. And the comic book dealers, you'd be surprised what they can come up with. Yes.
The one thing that I could see that you may have foreseen this, but you bring in coin dealers, that's a very different crowd than card dealers, who's a different crowd than toy dealers, who's a different crowd. You have these different crowds.
We know that one of the reasons by doing it is because there are so many collectors out there that are multidisciplinary. In other words, they collect coins and they collect sports cards, or they collect sports cards and they collect comic books, or they collect comic books and they collect coins. Or we're aware of that. There's a lot of people out there like that, and this gives them an opportunity to have all this stuff in one place. That's another reason for doing the show. That's why it's multidisciplinary. Now, what we haven't worked out and haven't figured out yet is how we're going to arrange the floor.
That's where I was
We can do it.
going
We can have a
mostly.
coin section here, a comic book section here. I don't know if we want to do that. What we may do is just have them first come, first serve. Pick where you want to be. because we're gonna have the QR codes, and it may be a long walk for the individuals, but that's not terribly bad, because if they're going from one place to another, they may pass by something else that they wanna see. I wanna go back to cosplay for a second. I don't know if you've seen it, but most of the people, when you have a comic book show, all the characters show up. And I tell you, they completely lose their inhibitions. You have to have stuff, just because they're dressed this way, don't take anything in this, don't be touching anybody. And, you can, ask, can I take your picture? They'd love to have their pictures taken and all that. The coin dealers and the card dealers don't see this. This is gonna be tremendous entertainment. They're gonna see all these little stuff going around, these little modules, these R2-D2s, and people dressed amazingly. And that's gonna be a big deal for them too. They're gonna go home and they're gonna brag about this. Look, you gotta see what the hell I just saw. What was that?
But is that gonna kill their sales?
No.
No.
No. If anything, it'll help them, because it'll keep people there longer. And then, we'll have contests, for the best costume and stuff like that. We're trying to be procreative as what we can do here, as much stuff as we can put in.
The reason I'm bringing that up is because it seems to me like the person who's buying coins is a very different person than's buying something that a cosplay would fit with, or whatever. It seems like they're very different personalities. It's a whole
They
different.
can be, but we're all human beings, and human beings like to be visually, what's the word I'm looking for? Stimulated, exactly.
Yeah.
And this will stimulate them. They'll like it too.
A thought would be to have some sort of nonprofit organization that's there that, hey, if you're leaving, you still have a few coins or whatever you haven't used up yet, if you want to donate to this organization, whatever's left
Yeah, we haven't
over.
thought about that. We can definitely do that.
I mean,
That's a great idea.
foundation, that helps bring more people
Sure.
away.
Yeah, we'll do that. That's a good idea. Appreciate that. Thank you. I mean, between Rotary and all the other stuff that we do, that's easy to do. So we'll definitely do that. Any other questions about that?
All right.
Bring Rupert up?
Yep.
Okay.
Rupert. Before Rupert starts, come on. We do have the sign-up sheet. What's your name?
Amita.
Amita? Is it right behind you?
She passed it to me.
Oh, did okay, good.
I think it's been around.
Okay, if anybody has not signed the sign-up sheet or marked yourself present for the day, please do so. Otherwise, Rupert is the founder and creator of Burnout Game Ventures. I always call it a gaming incubator. I'm sure he has a better term for it. But anyway, Rupert, you presented a number of times. So tell us what you've been up to since your Burnout speech, and then we will just have to use the question.
Oh, it's simple. I just burned out. Yeah. Burnout Game Ventures basically is we accelerate startup game companies from 0 to ROI in 6 months or less. And so we put out 3 games from 3 different companies. All games were done and released within 6 months. And so we've held up to that tagline, so to speak. The typical indie game takes 2 to 4 years to make. We're doing it in 6 months. The typical indie game takes $750,000 to make, and we're doing it for less than 10% of that. And the typical indie game does less than 22,000 installs or customers in its 5-year lifetime, and we're averaging 100,000 in the first year. Yes.
Could you do a basic explanation of what an indie game is versus what we all see kids playing?
So, the video game industry is a little large. It's over $180 billion a year. For example, in the movie industry, it's rare that you see a movie doing $1 billion at any given time. Whereas in the game industry, every year we have anywhere from 8 to 12 games that are doing $1 billion in a year.
What platforms?
There's over 50 different platforms, but typically they're PC, Mac, Linux, PlayStation. Those are the PC ones. Then you've got consoles like Nintendo Swift and PlayStation and Xbox and so forth. Yeah, and then you've got the VR ones, and you've got plenty of others online, HTML5 and so forth. So, but in any case, the thing about the market though is that even though it's so large and it's been growing at an average of 10% a year for the past 20 plus years. Okay, so it's massive and it's growing like crazy. They expect it to be 300 billion in another couple of years. But in any case, the problem that we see in the market is that 3% of the publishers are generating 94% of the revenues. Okay. The good news is that the market's so large that that other 6% of revenues generated by the other 97% of companies is still almost $11 billion. Okay, and so our goal is to get 10% of that over the next within the next 5 years. The thing is so those other 97% are the people that are just, they're creating games. They grew up, they love games, they grew up with them, and a lot of times they go to school to learn about them. I've taught at 2 of the top game schools in the world, UCF and Full Sail, and both bachelor's and master's degrees. And and I was recently voted by the industry as one of their top 50. So I think I got a magazine subscription for that. I don't know. I'm still waiting for it.
Is that an online subscription?
Yeah, yeah. So the problem is that they're typically they're young or whatever, but now the industry's 50, 60 years old now, and so the other problem is the biggest problem is that it's kind of like venture capital. They're very closely matched in music as well. Is it's a hit-based industry, okay? So people invest without using any brain cells to rub together. And what I mean by that is the typical VC in the game model is they'll invest in a number of games or companies, just believing that 90% or 95%, the number's closer to 95%, will fail, okay? And then that 5% game or company will make enough money to fix, to take care of all the other ones and give everybody their money back. So my problem with that is that it's entirely preventable. All those failures are entirely preventable, 100%. Okay. Well, maybe not 100%.
How's that possible?
So I'll get to that. So in the CD Insights did a big study a few years ago, and they canvassed over 100. They had canvassed 106 companies that have raised at least $2 million and still failed. Okay, and then they asked them, "Why'd you fail?" And you want to know what the number one reason was that 42% of the companies said caused them to fail? There's no market for their product or service. Think about that for a second. These are companies that were started based on there's a market for a product or service,
Right?
and they generated some sort of traction in order to get typically these days revenues, which is very myopic and short-sighted. And then the people who invest in them are supposed to be the smartest people in the room, and they invest in them believing that there's a market for the product and service. And then they still fail because there's no market for their product or service, okay? The other reasons that were cited were being outcompeted, lack of capital and cash flow, the employee product market fit,
The wrong team.
wrong team. That's a bad bone, man. That not a good enough team. I mean, I'm seeing people who have people are being invested in the game industry, for example. Oh, I was an associate producer on this $1 billion game, and she was a lead designer on this $1 billion game, and so on and so forth. And there's 5 of us, and we're going to create this. This is our idea for a game. We're going to sell 1 zillion units, but it's going to take us 4 years to make. So you're not going to see any product, let alone revenues, for 4 years. And by the way, our valuation is $12 million, and people are lining up. Okay. They have no business experience. I don't know if they can even spell the word entrepreneur. But
Second R. that's
but all,
tricky.
yeah, all due respect to them, you know, I wish them the best, okay? So the thing is there, all these things, market, competition, employees, communications with customers, relations, and things like that, all these things are completely and totally avoidable, all right? And they're avoidable from good project management, right? So the thing is project management is, in business, is like love to the rest of the world, all right? It's the most important thing, yet the least understood thing, okay? And so people completely and totally ignore it. And all the venture capital firms and investors and so forth, you know, I'm generalizing, of course. There's others of whom I'm working with a couple that are that do have some brain cells to rub together, and they're helping us out, and we're very thankful for that. And you know, so they understand that, you know, project management is just, you know, basically management, but 80% of project management is planning. Okay, and I started my first business at 20. I sold it when I was 23, and I've had 2 other exits since then. Nothing to write, you know, nothing the Wall Street Journal will write home about, but I was happy. And I've had 17 businesses. This is my 17th, and I'm just getting ready to start my 18th. And I'm batting about 50% on companies that are making money that I invest in, and you know, that don't. And the ones, the 50% that haven't yet are still in the cards, so they're still for my percentages to go up. The reason why is that in project management, you say there's 10 different disciplines in project management. Okay, you've got scope, which is the work and how it's done. You've got cost, which is obviously, you know, budget and so forth. You've got schedule, timing, right, and you have quality. And quality is simply the degree by which you're meeting your requirements. Okay, for example, this table here, you know, for $300, right, could be built to a much higher quality than a table over here that's worth $10,000, right? Because the degree by which this table's been designed and built meets the requirements for this table could be a lot higher than the one for this table, right? People get that totally confused because they're all product minded, they're not process minded, okay? So they look at the product and say, oh, that's a higher quality table, but you don't know that. All you know is that's a more expensive table, okay? You know, look at Rolls-Royce, okay? And look at Chevy, for example, or I don't want to use Tesla, for example. So, you know, the reason why a Rolls-Royce is worth $300,000 is because they put nearly 8,000 man-hours of work into every car, okay? And I've seen their build manuals for the Rolls-Royce Silver Spur, and it's over 10,000 pages long. Okay, and the thing is that every single person on that line knows exactly their page, their tasks laid out to the minute detail, how to do it by heart. They wake up in the middle of the night, they can do it, right, with their eyes closed. Tesla, on the other hand, what he's done is fantastic. You know, starting a car company is exceedingly difficult, certainly these days. What he's done has been fantastic, and he's upended the world of transportation and so forth. But the build quality is horrid on those cars. You know, Consumer Reports, which tests these things like ad nauseum, just constantly places at the bottom of the ladder because their build quality and their electronics always going on the fritz and everything like that. So Rolls Royces are built to a higher quality versus Teslas. Now they're improving. Obviously, they have to improve if they want to stay market competitive, because, you know, GM and VW, the big boys, are now jumping into the marketplace with dozens of electric. So, but the thing is Rolls Royce has quality cars because, as I explained, that car rolling down the street was made to within 1 or 2% of its requirements, whereas the Tesla.
You take that same example for gaming, some game that only took, I don't know how long it takes to make a game, but takes only 1,000 hours to put this game together, and yet it takes off and makes millions of dollars, where
You
he's
never
spent
know.
hundreds of thousands of dollars to
Yeah.
engineer this game.
So the gaming industry, just like any other industry, is rife with, you know, failures, right? In the movie industry, you had Heaven's Gate, right? You know, they spent $120 million on the movie, and it probably made 1% of that. Same thing in gaming. You know, we had Aliens: Colonial Marines, which was, you know, they spent $180 million on that game, and I think it's to date, nearly 17 years later, it's only made about 15 million or so. But then again, you've got somebody like Rovio, who I know, and they did 52 games.
That's Angry Birds, right?
Yeah, they did 52 games, and they all flopped, right? And they actually dissolved the company, and then they went their separate ways. And the two guys on the team came up with this Angry Birds idea, and so they worked on it for a couple months together. 100 hours a week, just like really kicking it out, doing the art, doing the programming. And then they went back to the team and said, guys, just one last chance, let's just do it one more. And the team says, okay, we'll do it one last time. And a couple of them mortgaged their homes and whatnot, and then Angry Birds was born, and we all know what happened. But let me tell you something about Angry Birds. Is, see, in a hit-based industry, when you're filled with one-hit wonders, okay? All my competitors, all of Burnout Game Ventures competitors, when they make a game and it does well, that's great. But now, expect that team to duplicate that success, and they can't do it. They can't do it because number one, they don't have the plan. They don't even have a plan for why they did the success in the first place. They don't know why their game was successful, right? And therefore they can't repeat those results because they don't know. Whereas in project management, if you do there's multiple different methodologies for planning and managing startups and projects and things like that. And the two biggest ones are waterfall, which is you do all the planning up front, and then you stick to that as the highway or the byway, right? And then there's agile or Scrum, or Scrum, and which is basically we just shoot from the hip, pull it out of our butts, or whatever. And every 2 weeks we come up with ways to fix things and move forward and whatnot. And it's very iterative. So you get new problems every 2 week sprint, and then you solve those problems the next one and try to move forward.
You know, like Angry Birds, a game that sticks, versus like I went on my phone top 20.
You don't.
It's all the project management versus shooting from the hip. You still don't know if it's going to be a success, right?
On the contrary, with project management, your chances of being successful are greatly increased because the things we do know about hits are that they're fun to play, they're engaging, et cetera, et cetera. There's about 100 different factors involved, all right? That can be controlled, okay? But they can be controlled only if you know what they are. And the vast majority of that 97% going after that 6%, they don't know. They don't plan that stuff, right? And so what we do is we take both. We take the waterfall and the agile, and we say, let's do and this is based on my experience as a consultant, doing project management for product development and entrepreneurs and startups and things like that for over 30 years. And in all things from, I've done high-speed rail. I was working on a Hyperloop system, while Elon Musk was in high school, or in elementary school. Worked at United Space Alliance and worked at NASA and all these other things. And I owned a restaurant, and that's one of my exits. I mean, all these things, all these processes, they work for every single industry. You just tweak them here and there for whatever you need for your particular industry, because it's the processes, it's not the product. Without the right processes, you cannot have the right product, okay?
So when you're writing your book?
Oh man,
that
has been an albatross on my neck
I am
for so long.
completely serious on that, because you don't have to go into detail.
Right.
And it would be an amazing thing for Burnout Ventures to have you have that book that goes through the top problems, 100-page book, that,
100 page. I've got 5 manuscripts right now, a total of about 82,000 words.
Rupert and I have had part of this discussion already.
Yeah.
yeah, you're
And,
doing too much. You're
yeah,
doing too
either-
much. Keep it super high level.
Super high level.
Keep super high level. Keep it down to 15, 20,000 words. Because all you've got
I can do it in 30 and still keep it at a fairly high, level. And
Yeah,
then-
because you don't want to get so detailed, but what you wanna do is you wanna show what you can do.
Right.
Then Burnout Ventures has this book, Kindle, print, whatever,
Right.
that you can say, listen, I wrote the book on this.
Mhm.
And you also have the experience to back it up and
Sure.
everything else.
Mhm.
So it, literally for your business, that book could be an amazing thing. It's not, I've
100%.
written 3 of them, I'm on my 4th one right now.
That's been at the top of my mind for 7 years now. Yeah.
There is a process.
There is a process.
Yes, it's very simple.
There is a process. I've spoken to publishers. I've been offered advances. I've just got to pull the trigger and just get it done.
Only you can
The problem
hire
is I'm
somebody
focused.
to-
I'm so focused right now on just cash flow, right?
Mhm.
So because we've been having difficulty finding.
Ghostwriter.
I know several ghostwriters. In fact, I'm
Whoever.
talking to one this afternoon. I know a ton of them. But that, again, I know my material very well, as you can imagine, and I can whip this thing out if I just put my mind to it and set aside the time. I can have it written in a month. There's no question in my mind. Yeah.
You know what,
Thank
it's a
you.
matter of
Yeah.
semantics, what he refers to as project management, we refer to as team. You have to look at every single facet of what you're doing in business and make sure you've got somebody that's looking at it, control it, and they're capable of what they're doing.
Well, the thing is human resources is one of the 10 things, as is communications and risk management and procurement and all these things that work together. So in a startup, I consider a startup to be like an organic puzzle, right? So as you're creating your plan, you've got a picture of what your success looks like. So as you're doing your research and planning for your business, and even afterwards when you start executing, what you do is sometimes you need to make room to put a new piece of the puzzle in there, and other times you got to take a piece out but still make it look, like
To
it's a
answer your
big picture.
question from earlier, 21% is what we need to break even. So that's not much. So we're pretty sure we're gonna be successful.
Yeah.
We
So-
are running out of time,
Okay.
because I know you could answer questions for an hour. And I know we have an hour's worth of questions. Steve, last question.
At what stage can somebody come to you with a gaming idea? Do they have to be certainly down the path of somewhat development? Where do you actually take your incubator stage and help them?
Well, the thing is since there's so many people with ideas, and ideas are a dime a dozen, or probably a dime a million, we prefer somebody that's, first of all, they've got something that's playable, right? So my team can look at it. My advisors, I have nearly 50 of them, including the director of game products at Netflix, the CEO of WISPA, which is the worldwide wireless internet service provider industry, and I got the former VP of finance at Bright House Networks. I've got 50 of these people, and these are my advisors. Okay, so I got the top. I've got an epic team, which venture capitalism, right? But in any case, so we look at these games and we play them, and then I've got guys that that created Call of Duty, that worked on Angry Birds, that worked on games, so they know what a good game is when they see it. And so we look at it, we play it. If we think it's original, if we think it's if it's going to go engaging, it's fun to play, and that it can scale, right? Then we invite them to talk.
So it's gotta be tangible, it's gotta be operational and.
Yeah,
functional.
I mean, we've done just ideas and we've turned them into great games. But that's how we got started. But now we can pick and choose. The other things we look at is, are they entrepreneurial? Okay, do they have high levels of resilience and risk tolerance? Okay, that's key. We're going to assume they have high levels of initiative and creativity, right? But they've got to have the risk tolerance and they have to have the resilience. But the number one thing is, are they coachable? Right? because a lot of these developers, you know, they're thinking, oh, I can make $120,000 a year right out the gate, and I know everything, and blah, 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 and business is just voodoo, and, you know, whatnot. And so they're not coachable. So we want to make sure that they're coachable.
It is voodoo.
Right. And so those are the things that we look at when we have over 150 in the queue right now. So it's like, you know, we just pick and choose which ones we want. Got another one added to the queue yesterday, which blew my mind. I'm really looking forward to working with them. You know, I've got the guys. I've got one of the top game development teams in the world that created Rampage and, you know, General Chaos and 007 and a few other games and whatnot over the years, and they want to come work with us. So, I mean, tons of opportunity. It's just that, you know, VC look at us and they're like, you're not making enough revenues, and which is very myopic because I've got the team. I mean, does anybody have any thought in their minds whatsoever that my team can make money, for crying out loud? And we have the processes in place, and we've proven it. You know, we do make products better, faster, cheaper. Proven that beyond the shadow of a doubt.
What's your process for bringing on the PC?
Instead of going into that, we got.
Can I make a suggestion? Forget the bug, come out with a puzzle. Then you put all the pieces together, explain it all right there.
So I got an idea for a game. These warthogs have stolen these eggs from penguins.
Oh yeah.
Well, because
and
penguins
you
are
fight them with pigs, yeah.
They have to roll
Ah, they have to roll.
because penguins are flightless.
Uh-huh.
Rolling game.
Okay.
Anyway, all right. So thank you very much, Rupert.
Great question.
All right, it was awesome.
All right.
Next week, we will hear from Tammy Bishop at Our Sweet Village. It's a co-working space for teachers and occupational therapists in the Oviedo Mall, and she's going to talk to us about that. If you're on Zoom, download the chat. There wasn't a lot going on, so you're still free to download it, but it's going to be for light reading. Connect with somebody that you met with today, that you met here today. Have coffee with them, have lunch with them, have a phone. And then make sure you join us on meetup.com because that's where our announcements are. Just meetup.com/ I think it's one cups hyphenated. If not, just Google us and you can. Other than that, thank you very much, and we will see you all next week.